right. Let's start it off there. I have a cramp in my side. You know what? It's probably because because we've been traveling so much, I have been pounding vitamin C. And guys, this is not, I always get nervous when I talk about things because like I'm not a doctor and I don't want people to go try this at home and then like have a negative effect. I have been pounding so much vitamin C and now I have a cramp in my side. And then the other day I had like really bad gas and my husband was like, it's because you're pounding vitamin C. I was like, leave me alone. At least I'm not sick. So anywho, welcome. I am speaking today with Miranda Popen. She is the creator behind the Period Lab, which is such a beautiful Instagram account. Like all your images that you create are so nice. I love it. The branding.
Thanks, man.
The branding is like perfect for period talk. I love it.
Guess what? We've got a man who makes all of it.
Oh my God. I love that for him.
And he just entered a new relationship and he's like the most supportive boyfriend ever.
Oh yeah.
Because he knows
Can you imagine?
I think you should do this.
I love that.
believe it. I believe it. I could only imagine like you also like being married to a doctor too. Just a little bit, just being able to have the conversation is such a game changer. But yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So the first thing we'll talk a little bit about is post-pregnancy periods and why so many people, like I never had a complaint about my period or my cycle until after I had Milo. And it's weird because there was probably like 3 or 4 years before I actually had Milo where I wasn't on birth control, because I think that plays a lot into it as well. Like we're on birth control, which is completely like, I don't know how to say it, like suffocating our hormones or like making them super stable. Yeah. Then you go off of it to have a baby. And then a lot of people don't go back on birth control after having a baby. And it's like, oh my goodness. So this is what it's like to be a woman. This is fun. So why do so many people have symptoms post-pregnancy, and what are the most common period symptoms post-pregnancy?
Yeah. Okay. So the birth causes probably the most powerful change in women's hormones. And during the pregnancy, the main female hormones, your progesterone and your estrogen, is going to significantly rise around week 30 until the birth marks a strong and abrupt drop in these hormones. And this drop is also associated with psychological symptoms.
So
such
like
as mood swings, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
Right? So that postpartum depression is a real thing. We're usually getting all these symptoms that show up around 12 months after birth. And this is a really important topic that almost deserves like a separate conversation, because we don't want to ignore the baby blues at all. But hormones will stay low until your body is ready to produce again. We can experience, like, from that massive drop that happened, we're going to experience these crazy changes in how the actual cycle shows up. And I mean, this is such a massive topic, but this can show up in heavy periods to mood swings or just the baby blues. It's also going to be based around like if you decided to breastfeed or not, and is your body already starting to figure out how to ovulate? So there's a lot of stuff that's going on here when it comes to the hormones dropping right away. When we have these different periods that show up, or if we have this different bleeding, one of the most prominent symptoms that you'll experience is going to be this vaginal discharge, and it's going to last around 4 to 6 weeks, and it's going to consist of uterine lining, mucus, and tissue, and blood that were produced by your body during the pregnancy. And it's most likely that your period is just going to be heavier, or it's going to be longer, and this whole entire thing actually has a name to it that I suck at pronouncing.
Lokia. Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. And it usually starts bright red and it slowly transforms to this pinkish, brownish, yellowish, whitish, and then eventually it's going to go into this transparent discharge. And this usually comes with cramping. And because during this time your uterus is continuing to shrink to its normal size, we end up getting like warning signs of like large clots or fevers or different changes in colors or odor, going from even just like this consistent bright red that just like won't stop. We just don't stop bleeding. And those are probably going to be like the most, it might indicate the most residual tissue in the uterus, and that needs to be removed. So there's also going to be, just the last thing to add to that, there's going to be a very light or short bleeding, and that could also be a reason why we need to start talking to our doctors more about what the actual bleed looks like and the consistency and the texture and what's going on. A lot of us go right into pregnancy and, okay, what is this bleed? And tracking the cycle and then tracking these symptoms. And it's just so different that we almost just get so annoyed of the bleed that's constantly happening that we're not paying attention to the actual texture, consistency, the expelling tissue that's showing up. Tracking your cycle for me is beyond just the bleed. It needs to look like tracking the texture, the consistency, the length, odors. It needs to also include, once eventually you stop the bleed, the other phases. How many days does it take for you to ovulate? When did you ovulate? How many days does it take for you to finish ovulation and go back to your next period? So, thing you should know about me is that I go on rants.
So let's just talk about like a regular period. What does that look like with regard to like color consistency over the days?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So a healthy period that we want, healthy hormones are required for a healthy period. So that period, ideally, it looks like this cranberry red, almost like unsettled Jello mixture for all you moms out there.
Perfect.
And and so, next time you're making up some Jello,
yeah.
Go for some red Jello. And it's going to last anywhere from 3 to 7 days. I'm going to say whatever is consistent for you. And we want this to show up every 28 to 32 days. But again, whatever is consistent for you. If it is always showing up every 35th day, if that is consistent and that's showing up for you, that's cool. That's great. A lot of us get so overwhelmed. Oh my God, it's 37 days, 35 days. There's something wrong with me. If it's consistent, that's great. But what needs to happen is that it remains symptom-free. I have a high standard for myself and for all my period lab babes, and we don't accept symptoms. No cramping, no mood swings, no spotting. Yeah, we like to feel really good. No breast tenderness.
Once I started to pay attention to cycle times, and I went to see my naturopath, and I was complaining to her about like every month for like 3 or 4 days, I wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'm wide awake, like wired.
Yeah.
Can't fall back asleep. She's like, next month, pay attention to when that happens. She's like, I bet you it happens the week before your period. And I was like, okay. Sure enough, like the week before my period now, for probably like a good 5 days, just wide awake. And then I noticed this cycle, because now I'm like really paying attention. I have a little freaking calendar on my desk. After I ovulated, like I was sleeping so well during my period, after my period, then I ovulated the next day after ovulation, because I know when I ovulate, because it's painful, that's also probably a problem. Wide awake again, 2 a.m. So I was like, okay, I just ovulated, so something's going on, and I'm waking up again wide awake at 2 a.m, like for no reason. But it's fascinating to me. And then the mood, like the irritability, before, the week before my period, I'm like, holy, like it all makes sense. So
For anyone else, I would say this is awful, but for your content and your content alone, I'm like, I love it when you're irritable.
I'm like, video reply. Like,
It's so good.
It's that time of month. I'm gonna video reply. So if you were me, like where do I start? Like what do people do? Like people are probably listening and they're like, yeah, I have really bad symptoms throughout my cycle, whether it be like ovulation pain, like moodiness the week before my period, really bad period cramps and symptoms. So where do people even start with like to know what to do? Because it is overwhelming. Like it's so much like information.
Yeah. I'm going to start with what you had just shared, because a lot of us go into this place of darkness where we're just experiencing all these symptoms and we don't realize that there's a pattern. We don't realize that there's all these red flags that are trying to show up. So tracking, the fact that you started tracking that needs to be like the first thing that's going on in your mind here, because we need to start recognizing what are those red flags and writing them down. And I'm not just talking about your period. I'm talking about before, after ovulation. There are things going down every single day. Like if I were to take you through all 28 days, something different is happening every 28, 32 days of that cycle, right? So on all of those days, do you experience symptoms? What is going on there in those symptoms? What kind of inflammation is showing up? What's going on with your hormones throughout each of these days? That is going to allow you to have better conversations with your doctors, with your midwives, but also you are no longer just going to be in the passenger seat and being talked to. I want everyone, like doctors are on our sides, but I want you to set them up for success and for you to also have a better relationship with them. So go in there and be like, boom, here's everything that you need to know about me. This is what I'm noticing. This is what I've tracked. Let's have a better conversation about this. And even right from there, you can start noticing those patterns. You can start picking up on symptoms a lot faster. You can also start identifying fibroids, cysts, endometriosis before it gets into stage 2, 3, etc., where we need surgery. There's so much that we can benefit from tracking. So first things first is tracking. From there, we can start look, and there's so many resources that are out there. I'm actually posting other people's Instagram accounts constantly, trying to get people to follow more reliable resources and fill their Instagram accounts of things that are going to make you question and pay attention to those red flags. So from there, we need to start leaning into how our female biology works. There's almost like this fire that is like under our butts where we want to be so equal to men that we forget that we are so much better than men. There's so much more that we can do and provide, and like the energy, the female energy is absolutely wild when we can tap into it. But we force ourselves to diet and fast and train like men who have completely different hormones. So it's like we are trying to fit a circle into a triangle that just doesn't happen. So we are this massive energy that, I mean, I think we are like really I get a little bit woo. I think we're these like crazy spiritual creatures that need to live in this female biological way, that are so burnt out and so exhausted and filled with so many symptoms because we have been doing all of these things based off of male research. And I'm going to say college men, just to like make that super clear, because there's the fasting and the keto, and then there's all the training, and all of this information that has been gathered is based off of college men, and we're post-pregnancy women.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Why would we do that to ourselves?
The more I learn about cycle stuff, I'm like, this is bullshit. Like the world is set up
Yeah.
and functions day to day for a man. Like, I am in a great position, like, because I can plan my work on my own schedule. So for me, the more I learn about cycle stuff, I'm like, shit, like I need to lay out my cycle on this calendar on my desk and like focus on booking recordings, like meetings, like in-person things during certain times of my cycle. Because even like, what was it, 2 weeks ago, before I had got my period, I was like dragging my ass. I'm like, fuck, like I don't want to do this. I don't want to like record. I don't like, I just want to sit on my couch and like read my book and do more like introverted things like writing, and like I don't want to be like making TikToks. And it's so funny, like I'm sure if I went through my TikTok account and took like, I should do this like because I'm a nerd.
I was just gonna tell you to do this.
Yeah, see when I posted what, and like categorize the TikToks based on like, is it a video reply where she's like, you know, being sarcastic and like coming at somebody, or is it like something goofy? And I bet you it tracks to my cycle, because I'm not one to be able to like put out content or do things when I don't want to. I just can't. Like, I don't care if I'm not like putting out content or whatever. If I don't want to do it, I don't do it. So I bet you it follows that way. And then, so I was thinking like the workday and how society functions is literally not for women.
It's so crazy. Yeah. And it's funny because there are men out there that are trying to be like, hey, you should do this. And we're like, no. We've got Dr. Brandon Marcello, who is a performance strategist for the military, Olympics, and for Stanford University. And he has been trying to get women to train around their cycle since like 1994.
Wow.
You think we listen? You know, so, and he's like, he sees the science, he sees our bodies. This is how the US women's soccer team train, for example. Like, it's out there. This is not brand new. It's just that now we're just making it aesthetically pleasing. And now people are starting to learn. Like, there's Natural Cycles. Natural Cycles is this amazing platform that literally just took the FAM method, tracking your temperature, and made it aesthetically pleasing. And it's so convenient. They just made it easy and made posts about it, right? Which is for sure like the generation we're in.
You mentioned like going through your cycle symptom free. Like, my husband would love it if I could live that kind of life, because I'm always like, oh, like my period's coming next week. Like, I'm so irritable. He's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm like, you try and be a woman with hormones. Like, but so if people are listening and they're like, okay, I experience similar symptoms to what Renee is talking about, how do we, because I know you talk a lot about like foods for the different phases of our cycle. I'm trying to like wrap my head around that right now. Training, like different, you know, if you're physically active, like different training things you can do depending on your cycle. So like, what I'm trying to say is, how do you live your life? Like, how do we better manage our symptoms?
Yeah. Okay.
This is like this is a massive question. So just give us some.
This is a massive question. I'm gonna roll up my sleeves here, comb down my arm hair. So we got our 4 phases: our follicular, ovulation, luteal, menstrual phase. Okay. So when we break this up, it's literally like our fingers. Our hormones are starting low, they rise, and then they fall. Okay. Same situation also happens with our cortisol levels, with our metabolism, with our insulin sensitivity, which means that you need more insulin to support your body versus in your follicular and ovulation phase, like how your fingers are rising, right? So to break that down, let's start from the training perspective, and then we're going to go into the brain and work perspective, and then food. So training perspective, in your follicular phase, your hormones are low. This is not the time that we can pump out these massive workouts. You can try, but what I end up seeing happen is we go through a couple cycles And every single cycle, it's like you're changing the baseline. You're going to hit burnt out town. I don't know the last time that I've hit burnt out. And it's because it's not just like building up. Being burnt out is like this slow build up that is constantly happening where we are ignoring our cycles, ignoring the symptoms, the red flags, right?
So follicular, just to be clear, that's after menstrual, which is your period. Okay.
Yeah. You have your bleed, and then there's this week before you start noticing the white discharge. So we got red discharge, and then we got egg white discharge.
Yeah.
I should get a tattoo that says all this.
Yeah, come on.
The amount of times that I use this, I really should. So the follicular phase, hormones are low. So I like using this time exercise wise to slowly get back into things. So I'm thinking more like yoga, going for runs, walks, or I also, especially for moms, getting into animal flow, getting your body, getting your pelvic floor, getting things to, it's almost like flossing with your hips, but getting your body to move in a different way that's going to challenge your cardio, but not so much. Once we get into this ovulation phase, our estrogen and testosterone levels are at their highest points here before they meet up with progesterone. So this is kind of the time where it's like we're slowly ramping things up, where we're going to push ourselves and train the hardest here. So we can do all the HIIT workouts. We can do all the total body, minimal rest, get the heart rate up. You can do all the sprints if you want to. While I'm also talking about this, I want you to take into consideration like how your brain would function in these moments, and also how you would design content in this moment, right? How you can also adjust your work calendar to this moment, right? So then we go from hard and heavy, and then we meet up with progesterone. Progesterone is this beautiful hormone that we should be protecting. And the thing about progesterone is that it depletes when we are dealing with a lot of stress. And when our body is under too much stress, we're constantly depleting ourselves from those progesterone stores. But stress goes through this progesterone filter, just like a pool filter. So we need progesterone to deal with stress. But if stress is always so high in every aspect of our life, including training, it can also be depleting those progesterone reserves, right? So this is a really great time to slow things down. So I like to split our cycle into halves, right? So for the luteal phase, we want to focus on protecting queen P and supporting the low cardio workouts. For some of us, that could look like, you have to consider where your fitness baseline is, but it could look like yoga or Pilates, stretching, mobility. For me, when I'm in my luteal phase, I am the most focused. I am in the most masculine state in my luteal phase, where I am just narrow-minded and in hustle mode, checking things off. So this is a great time for me to hit PRs. So this is when I will squat, and I will only squat, and I will only do like 2 or 5 reps. And then I'm going to go rest for like 5 minutes in between. Keep my heart rate down, right? But again, it's going to be different for everyone. The goal is to still keep the heart rate down. And then I go into my menstrual phase. No matter what, for training, whether you are a man or a woman, a really healthy, positive workout approach or workout plan should include a deload week. If you're working with a personal trainer, they would include a deload week.
What's that mean?
At least they should. Where we go lighter in weight.
Okay.
And you're going to challenge things. You could do like lighter in weight or higher reps, but like almost doing a little reset. Why? And I see so many women try to do that reset in like their ovulation luteal phase. I'm like, why are you doing that? Let's focus on mobility. Let's deload here when it makes sense. So we can still hit our fitness goals and we can still work out the rest of the month. This deload week can also look like just mobility or stretching, yoga. Could also look like sleeping, focusing on your orgasm routine, focusing on just catching up. This is also the one time in your whole entire month where your left brain and your right brain are communicating the most. There's no such thing as like you being just like left brain or just right brain dominant. you're going to move through left and right brain all throughout your cycle, throughout your phases. But this is a time in our menstrual phase, in our menstrual cycle, that the menstrual phase is the time that we can reflect the most. So really great time to take inventory on your body. How tight are you? What do we need to correct? Maybe we go to a massage therapist or manual therapist, but also a really great time to then think about inventory for work. What were the videos like? What was the engagement like? How did business go? What's going on with my clients? I like to reflect on that stuff. And then same thing for even like my own personal health or my own relationships, whatever it needs to be. And then I go into my follicular phase. Again, you're finishing up your period. I look at my follicular phase as planning, ovulation phase as doing, communicating. I'm the sassiest and like the most bubbliest when I'm doing my ovulation content. But when I'm in luteal, I'm just like, I don't give two fucks. So I am going to just like put out some like aggressive stuff. But like that content slaps, or sometimes maybe I am just putting out all the sassy content, recording it all in my ovulation phase. And because I'm not creative, I'm just going to put in the captions in my luteal phase. And then again, we reflect, right? So you can break that down into, like, if you have control over your schedule, or as much as we can we do the most in the follicular and ovulation phase, do the least in the luteal and menstrual phase?
Yeah. It makes so much sense.
So thinking about food. So now, if we're doing the most, think about it. Like if you were to go do like 100 cartwheels, chances are you're not going to want a lot of food in your system, right? In this time when we're doing the most, your body actually doesn't need the most food. Doesn't mean to not eat. We still need to make sure, like I truly believe in keeping up with protein. A lot of us notice appetite suppression in this follicular phase, which is kind of dangerous because we're getting so close to ovulation. We want ovulation to show up without any symptoms, right? And when we show up with period symptoms, cramping symptoms in ovulation, that's usually coming back to a lot of inflammation. Protein is the water to the fire if we want to put out the inflammation.
I just have a little question.
Yeah.
My ovulation, like severe pain for like 12 hours. So it's like, I know, I'm like, okay, the egg is moving. Like, I know exactly, like I can tell you.
Corpus luteum is arriving on scene.
Yeah, like it's happening. Like just the other night, my husband and I were watching a show and I was like, oh my God, like starting to feel crazy pain. I run over to my little calendar and yeah, it was like in between day 14 and 15. So for 12 hours, I have like crazy pain. Every time I have told a physician that, they're like, oh, well, you're lucky because it's basically like birth control or you know when to have sex to have a baby. I'm like, thank you so much for your help. I know I'm not supposed to have that. And clearly like something is off. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to challenge you right here, right now.
Okay, I'm making notes. What?
Okay. Well, for one, I want you to, when you are acknowledging or when you are putting in your symptoms and you're acknowledging when you experiencing the cramps or the mood swings, and that's what your midwife already told you to do.
Naturopath.
I want you to, naturopath. I want you to go into the content creation this way too. I want you to start lining your content up with your cycle. Okay. Follicular phase, you plan. Ovulation phase, you crank it out. Luteal phase, maybe it's captions, or you're organizing the post dates, whatever's like the least but most hustle mode for you. And then ovulation phase, you can be posting that, you can just let it drop, or you can just reflect what worked, what didn't work. What do you want to do next time?
Okay.
Right? Or what needs to be said, what's coming up for you.
I feel like even when you were talking about like the appetite, that is so me too. Like that is so me. I'm like, I don't really have an appetite, so I'll just like, snack on grapes and this and that. Like and And then all of a sudden I'm like hungry and I eat like, but not the best things.
Think about the fire,
Yeah.
ovulation. Again, like our appetite is low. There's not a lot of stuff that's happening here. Our insulin sensitivity is different here. So it's this dangerous place, I feel a little bit when it comes to food because we have this low appetite, and a lot of us are going to say, oh, I'm just going to listen to my body and I'm just going to go for a couple of grapes when it needs to be like, hey, I'm in the follicular phase. I know ovulation is coming up. These have been traditionally my symptoms showing up in ovulation. I'm going to go for a little bit of protein instead, or some fats, something that my hormones are made out of, proteins and
Mm.
fats,
Mm.
right? So
Protein and fat,
we
protein and
go
fat.
from the follicular phase where appetite is low, but as estrogen increases, our insulin sensitivity changes, right? So we're getting to this place where now we ovulate, boom, insulin sensitivity. We need more insulin. We need more food to remain solid and stable, consistent energy, consistent mood, consistent sparkles, consistent you. That should be a post. But when we think about ovulation, estrogen is rising to the highest points here. The theme for that week, I'm going to consider eating dark leafy green vegetables. Help your body process and detox. You are, yes, going to go through these phases, whether you have a cheeseburger or a salad. But the point of this is to show up without symptoms. That's what the bigger conversation that we're having here is, right? So ovulation phase is all about the dark leafy green vegetables, help your body detox, process, support those bowel movements, support the gut health, support the liver, all that good stuff. And then we get into the luteal phase. So insulin sensitivity is changing. Along with that, progesterone is showing up on scene. Your metabolism is all of a sudden running so much faster, which also puts you at risk for being in low blood sugar levels. And similar to these functional alcoholics that are out there, more times than not, we are these functional, imbalanced blood sugar adults, just like bouncing one blood sugar to mood swing at a time all day long, right? So I want you to question, are you actually hangry and irritable? Or are you actually, the question should be, this is going to be tonight's post, if you are actually PMSing or are you just hangry? Are you PMSing or is it low blood sugar levels? Are we not eating enough food? Because now your metabolism has changed, your cortisols have changed, your hormones are changing, where we're not focusing on supporting our blood sugar levels, where we're just going through all these drops. And when you are going through these blood sugar drops, you're also triggering more cortisol. And more
Mm.
cortisol triggers more blood sugar drops. So again, we're just bouncing off one cortisol to blood sugar spike after the next. We've
And
got a lot going
then
on here.
you wake up at 2 in the morning with a cortisol spike.
Yeah, you can. Definitely can. Yeah.
Okay.
So focus on blood sugar in this luteal phase, making sure that we're eating enough food throughout the day, snacks. But again, we still want to keep up with proteins and fats. We really like proteins and fats, but also additional carbs in that luteal phase. Menstrual phase, I like to eat the same way as my luteal phase, still focusing on blood sugar levels, eating a lot of food. You probably will notice for some people, some your appetite increases still, or some it lowers. But I like to think of anti-inflammatory based foods. So omega-3 based foods. I try to stray away from grains a little bit at this time and leaning more into root vegetables, which I like to call in the Period Lab. Going to trademark this one day, period carbs. Period carbs being our root vegetables, sweet potato, white potato, beet, squash, pumpkin, rutabaga. But again, thinking of anti-inflammatory based foods, so omega-3 based foods like flax seeds or seafood, hemp seeds, coconut yogurt, can also be turmeric and ginger. Could also go for a big fat steak during your period
Hmm.
week, you know? So, yeah.
You know what's wild? I just want to tell you this. So one day I happened to have an acupuncture appointment when I was starting to ovulate. So like I told her that I was like, I'm pretty sure like I'm starting to ovulate and I'm getting like all crampy. So she put acupuncture needles in my menstrual spots, whatever that is.
Mhm.
And like it was really achy, like when she put the needles in. Never got the ovulation pain that day. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, I love
I
it.
was
I love
shocked. And she
acupuncture.
does all the hormone spots on me
Yeah,
too, but I was shocked. Like, didn't get the cramps at all.
yeah. My background is functional nutrition and Chinese medicine, and I truly believe in this. But I will say there's a funny thing about acupuncture, and it needs to be done with nutrition
Mm-hmm.
and changing, like leaning into your female biology. Otherwise, it's just a band-aid, you
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can actually get to this place where you don't need any more, like that is the goal. Same thing with supplements. You can talk to any of my period lab babes. Very first conversation that we're going to have is here's your supplements, but here's how we're going to go into it. That by the time that we're done working together, ideally you're off of all these or you are headed in that direction, still remaining symptom free.
What's a period lab, babe? How does one become one? I'm like, what's this club?
This is okay. Have you ever Bert Kreischer? Watched
Have
the
I
Bert
what?
Kreischer? Have
No.
you ever watched the oh my God, it's so funny. And he's talking about his daughter getting her period, and I cannot wait. Well, we'll see if I have a kid. But if I do, and I hope it's a girl, we're gonna have a period party. And
Oh,
he dressed up
yeah.
in a red suit for her. And she called home from school and was like, Dad, I got my period. And he's like, oh my God, freaking out. What do I need to do? And she's like, no, I need you to go pick up a red velvet cake. I need you to go get red decorations. I'm gonna have a sleepover. And she's like, okay. He's like, okay, who are we gonna invite? And she invites two boys. And by the end of it, there's these two boys at this girl's period party. They have no idea why they're there. They've got pasta, like marinara sauce all over their faces, diving into red velvet cake, and she named her period Freddie.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Like we
So
need
I
this
want that
needs
one
to be a
day.
thing. Like
Like I want to have a period party here in Toronto.
that
You're
should be a
invited.
thing. Like think
I
about
want it
it.
to,
Like
yeah.
we are so taught like society just like through all the like, silent messaging that like, oh, it's
Mhm.
private, like you have to hide it. Oh, this tampon package is too loud, like I gotta open it so quiet in the bathroom and
Yeah.
like put it away and like that's how we're brought up to be like we don't really talk about it. We
Yeah.
for the most part like healthcare, it's not like we receive any information about our hormones or like what a healthy cycle is. Like we are not taught any of this stuff, which is
Mhm.
wild because it's probably like our biggest factor when it comes to health. It's nuts. But yeah, we should be having period parties for little girls. 100%.
That would be wicked. I wish I could share my screen right now and like show conversations. I got like this one mom who, she's now a post period lab babe a year now, and she has a daughter who just got her period, and now her daughter has been like, Mom, what do I do? And so she's like leaning into it and talking to her girlfriends and trying to figure out, um, like making it cool with her girlfriends. My mom said to do this, and the mom feels so good showing up, but now the teachers are asking, what are you guys doing? And now the bigger conversation is, okay, how can the teachers start bringing this information into class?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, just like taxes, we don't learn about this stuff in school. We need to
Mm-hmm.
start learning. Eventually, one day we will get to this place, or I hope, I dream that we will get to this place where we have our periods and we go into the doctor's office and the doctor's like, okay, this is what's going on with your period. This is what we don't want. This is what we do want. Keep me posted. And like, let's have this conversation. right? And they are setting you up for this next phase, this next chapter in your life.
I have an idea for you.
Yeah.
I think you should write almost like a little textbook that people gift to their daughters, nieces, whatever, when they get their period to learn everything. So it's kind of like has all this key information in it so that they know what's going on in their bodies, but it's in a way that's very like visually pleasing, kind of like your Instagram account, and it's like a book.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to write a book for so long, and the background behind it, the only way that I would do it would be for younger girls.
Yes, 100%. Like it's so needed. So is the period lab, is it like a group where people share ideas and like hold each other accountable, or like what is it?
It starts off with a secret handshake. And
Okay.
then once you learn the secret handshake, we go into, so we are tracking, testing, treating, training, and teaching.
Okay.
I am going to fix your hormonal cycle and your period, but you need to learn and you need to communicate. And there's all these weird processes in between it of there's so much going on, so there's not a lot going on. But the whole point of this is to get to this place where we are just relying on stress management and food and training, leaning into our female biology, lifestyle changes, not just supplements and medication and pills and things like that. So I work together with them. We'll also work with their doctors too, but breaking down what tests we need them to request. I can support them with a Dutch test too. We can also talk about food sensitivities, but the whole point of this is for them to identify what foods are specific for their phases, and then how much do they need for their height, age, weight, and for their symptoms. And for their symptoms, how are they going to reduce the inflammation, or how are they going to support their cycle moving forward so they never have to see my face at the end of this. That's what I say in literally like my sales calls. The whole point of this is for you to be symptom free, know what we did to get there, know how to move forward, not see my face again. I want you to be independent.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is everything that I wish that I had. And I was just being passed along from person to person. Nobody actually said, Miranda, this is what's going on with you. Here's why. Here's the whys, what's, hows of all of your symptoms. Here's how you're feeling these symptoms. Here's how you need to do things differently for your body. Stop mimicking all of the girls that you're skating with and do it this way. You have a different body type, hormones, symptoms than all of them. Why are you comparing them just because they're your friends and you're around the same age or you went through the same life thing? No, stop.
Yeah.
This needs to be about you. And that's where we need to get away from Dr. Google and those TikTok rabbit holes, as great as they can be to point you into the direction of questioning your symptoms. It does need to be personalized. So we then also take everyone through a movement screening, an FMS test, a functional movement screening, so I can better understand what's going on with their pelvic floor, compensations, and then also how to train around their follicular and ovulation phase versus their luteal and menstrual phase. So we're really taking the external, we're looking at the structural part, because you also have to understand, and what they start to learn is that period cramps and symptoms aren't just coming from nutrition deficiencies and like high cortisol, that can also be structural too. So what does that look like? How do we start fixing that? And then we look at any previous blood work, take them through additional tests, and we put all that information together and we create an approach for them around their phases. So this is us really like throwing a bunch of shit up against the wall, seeing how their body responds, and we react accordingly. We're just very proactive. And I put this in a 4-month container because I want to talk to you week to week, if not every other week. Sometimes it can be every other week, and I can let you process and digest and integrate. But this, we don't have to deal with these symptoms. The healing process doesn't have to be a year or 2 years just because you've been dealing with these symptoms for 2 years. These symptoms can go away pretty fast. You just need to learn about your body. You just need to communicate and have someone that you can talk to.
It's wild. Like my mind
Yeah.
is blown. Okay, before we just touch on alcohol and coffee, I have another idea for you.
Love it. Give them all.
Maybe this already exists, but I'm thinking a cookbook for your cycle.
You really are new to this, aren't you?
Yeah. Does that exist?
Yeah, like everyone and their mom has one.
Oh, okay.
But like I like where you're going with things. It's funny because I've been dying to do it. Like if you look at my wall,
Oh my
that's
God, I love
content
it.
for the rest of the year, and then events that we're trying to plan out, and like just projects that we're trying to plan out. So like shout out to Nike if you ever want to sponsor me. Um, it's cool though because Nike and Peloton, like, they're finally acknowledging that women have a cycle that needs to be different than men. Um, but I want to have a cookbook really bad. I'm just trying to find the chef that will hit these taste buds just right. My ex was a chef and his cooking was amazing, but like, you know, after you cheat on a girl with like 3 other like
Oh, no.
OnlyFans babes, that like you can't go back. So I'm just like,
He's cut.
damn,
He's cut.
and it sucks because like I really do like your recipe. But you know what? So cookbook is going to show up one day, a textbook. But I like your idea about the gift for like it being more personal, because I was thinking like textbook, like I want teachers to be confident bringing this information into their class. I remember getting a textbook and my mom left it for me in my room on my bed, and I came home from school one day and I was so disgusted and grossed out by it. I just threw it under my bed and like pretended it didn't happen and that I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an embarrassing topic. But even now, like, as I got into all of this and like posting it, my parents don't say anything. My dad just passed away, but he was like, if I ever had a period, you'd be my period guru. And he was like commenting on all the posts and everything. Like, good job, honey. And it's like a picture of my ass. And like in period underwear with the tampon string. He's like, love you, honey.
Aww.
Shining light.
I love it. Like, number one fan.
Great.
That's like my dad the other day was like, my mom texted me laughing because my dad was like making a joke, but he was like, you know what I'm going to do for you right now? I'm going to sweep the kitchen. And so he's like sweeping the kitchen. And my mom's like, excuse me, you're doing that for me? Like, that's just for me. And my dad's like, stop listening to your daughter. I can just imagine how many divorces she's caused. He's kidding. But because of all the things I point out and like talk about, I was like, that is the best. Okay.
True. I love that.
Briefly before we go, I wanted to talk a little bit about alcohol and coffee.
Yeah.
I'm really good. Like, I don't even really drink at all. Like, that's very easy for me. The coffee, though, I struggle with. So convince me, like, just tell me, just like, give it to me gently. What?
Give it to me straight, gently?
Yeah.
You want it gentle, or you want me to be like,
just like, tell me. For the longest time, I'm like, Renee, like, it just bothers me that I have to get up and have coffee, and like, not that I'm dependent on it, but that I look forward to it, and it's like I need it as soon as I wake up.
Yeah.
And it bothers me because I want to be a person that like wakes up and has green tea, or like I saw on your Instagram the lemon water thing, and my naturopath has been on me about like, wake up and have lemon water, and I'm like, ugh. Like, it's not the same as delicious hot coffee, but like, so help me with the coffee thing.
Okay, so why don't we just not even worry about cutting it out? You don't have to do that. Let's just have a better relationship with it.
Okay.
Done.
I don't, the thing is, like, I only have it in the morning. Like, I don't drink it during the day at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have it in the morning. Great. But I want to be a lemon water person. I really do.
So food first. The whole thing is food before coffee. And yes. Slow metabolism, high metabolism, irritability, mood swings. we don't have, so chances are you're going to be like, I'm okay, I'm good, I can have this coffee. And then chances are you don't realize that it's getting to you over here.
Mm-hmm.
We need food before coffee to make sure that we don't have any of those ovulation pains, but also ovulation happens because you can still have your period and not ovulate.
Mm.
We need to make sure that we're showing up for Queen P.
When you wake up, how soon do you eat something?
Within the first hour of waking up.
Okay. So like, yeah, see, oh, I'm bad. I wake up and then I have coffee, I drink water, I go to Pilates, come home by like 11. I've only eaten a banana, but had a lot, like coffee. I'm probably like not being good to my body by doing that.
No, you're setting yourself up. You're just like, okay, I'm irritable and I've got mood swings and I've got cramps, but you're like literally setting yourself up for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling you that right now, that you're giving yourself the perfect equation to have all those symptoms, but you don't have to. So now it's a choice. It's 2023. Renee, you have the choice. You can either start having food before coffee. Nobody's saying to get rid of your coffee, but can you have one hard-boiled egg? Can you have a handful of almonds? Can you even like sit back a protein shake when you wake up and then have your coffee? And then you can carry on with the rest of your day.
I can do it. I'm starting, well, not tomorrow. I got to get up at 4 in the morning and go to the airport, but okay, let's start this Saturday.
Can you grab some almonds and throw them in your pocket
I can.
as you are leaving? You can preset your food with almonds in your pant pocket already.
I always, you know
before you
what?
go traveling.
I always have nuts in my purse, so no excuse.
There you go. That's great.
Okay.
Coffee stimulates the central nervous system. It's going to increase infertility rates. It's a massive diuretic, which, yes, can be good if you're constipated, but as a diuretic, your body also needs to be able to absorb and use food, not just like go through you, right? There's only a certain amount of women, a certain kind of breed of women who can actually process coffee, and they have the CYP1A2 gene. Yeah. But not everybody does. So if you're dealing with hormonal symptoms, chances are you're not one of those special breeds.
Damn it.
It also increases your heart rate. We know that's also going to trigger mood swings, irritability, and then it's also going to suppress your appetite. So if we're just like chugging back coffee and I'm telling you, hey, you need to eat enough protein to put out the fire, but we're using coffee as an appetite suppressant, you're not going to be able to get enough food that you need for your height, age, weight symptoms.
For sure. Yeah. Okay.
And then we go into that luteal phase where your insulin sensitivity changes. So when progesterone arrives on scene, when your hormones start to decrease and you have your period, your insulin sensitivity increases. But like I said, are we PMSing or are we just hangry? We're not focusing on the insulin sensitivity here where you need more insulin. You need more food, actual real whole food that is chomped and mixed in with your saliva and then digested. There's no nutrients. I don't care what like bulletproof coffee, coconut oil that you put into your coffee. That's not food. We need real whole food.
Yeah. I need to like hire someone to cook for me because this is like my biggest struggle is doing like the prep of the food and like making sure we have the proper groceries and like I need to make this year, well, starting in December, I made like physical activity a priority. So now I do that. But like
I'm going to say this is where we need more support. And this is like what's going to be included in the cookbook, because the way that you sigh about, I need to get into the meal prepping, because we think it's this massive thing. But like when you there are so many shortcuts that chefs use to improve the speed of their cooking, that just taking a few of those makes the world of a difference. But also, arguably, you could eat out every single meal for all I care. that's what I've been doing. I just moved back to Toronto in September. So from June to September, I didn't have a kitchen. You can still support your hormones, traveling, moving. You just need to understand how your body works.
In LA, I eat like a champion. Like it's so easy to eat properly in LA. Like Uber Eats, Uber Eats, Uber Eats, like the best restaurants and like healthy food, like bowls and like, oh my God, it's amazing. But we live like in rural area. There's nothing here.
Uber Eats is a little expensive there.
Yeah, or it's like your options are like McDonald's and pizza. Like that's it. So anyways, okay, this was a fabulous conversation. You'll have to come back on so that we can talk about more stuff. For now, where can people find you online and join your club?
Yeah, right now, actually my virtual doors are actually open for the rest of the month. And then we close because I only work with a handful of women 3 times a year for 4 months. But you can find me at The Period Lab on Instagram, same for TikTok. TikTok is new, so we're just like cranking out content right now. And then the website is fun. We have a little free course that can also help people get started, and that's at theperiodlab.ca.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was lovely to get this done finally.
No, thank you. My assistant Anna says hi. She's a big fan.
Hello. Is it Anna or Anna?
It's Anna, like Frozen. Anna.
Oh, okay. Princess Anna. Okay,
Princess
lovely.
Anna.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.